Welcome to EJH British Cars. Well, I spent the last couple of days color sanding, which is less than exciting. So today I thought I might take a break from that and start assembling some stuff. So I'm going to assemble the passenger door, the right side door, and see if we can't hang it on the car. So let's get started.
So we're going to use this small vise, which you notice in the middle of the flat, there's a square hole, which we'll be driving the pins of the hinges through. So the pins have a head on one end and just a shaft through the rest. So you want to put the head of the pin down over the hole, then using a short drift to get it started, because these things are pretty well set in there after all these years. Get the pin to start to move. See, this longer drift is just kind of banging around, so I'll go to the shorter drift, which is just coming up here. There we go. And with that, you get a much firmer kick, and that drove it through to get it started. Because the pin's not long enough to get it all the way through, then we'll use the longer drift to drive it out, and it'll just fall through that hole and get caught by the vise. So once the pin's out, get everything out of the way, we can reach down and pull the pin up and out of the hole. And then we'll take the pin in and get it cleaned up and all the rest. And after everything's all nice and shiny, a little bit of Loctite, we'll get the screws started. So you want to make sure you start all the screws and just leave them all loose till you get every one of them started. Because there's a certain amount of slack in there, and you won't be able to use it if you've got the hinge down tight on one bolt. So there's the third. We should be coming up on a fourth one. There we go. Now we got all four of them in. We can go around and snug them all down. And yes, if you're wondering, those are upside down, that the pivot part should be down by the door skin, not up, which I obviously corrected later because otherwise the door will be trying to open inside the car. There's also four separate hinges on this car. There's an upper hinge, and the lower hinge has 4 holes on one side and 3 on the other, and they're also left and right. So they should always mount with the head of the pin facing up, so even if it loosened up, it wouldn't fall out. And then, of course, the one that has the 3 bolts on the lower part, which goes into the A post of the car, faces down. So this, I'm getting ready now to put the strap in, the stop strap, which is a steel bar with a rubber bushing on the end. It mounts from the inside of the door. It has a couple of small screws, which we will put Loctite on. They have nuts as well. And then there it is installed. Just getting everything picked up here, so we can go on to the next part, which the next part will be to put the strike plate on the end of the door. This is what holds the latch mechanism. And there you see it here. It has 4 flathead 1032 screws, which again we're going to use some Loctite on to put them in. And none of these things really have much adjustment. There's some of them you could move them maybe a 1/16 of an inch or something, but we're really kind of used to, having things you can move 1/2 an inch or more. And that is not the case on these cars. They were built really simple, and you just have to get everything right. So, get that in. I also found that one of the holes, it's a 1032 threaded hole, was full of some paint and rust, so I just cleaned that up with this tap and die.
Next thing we want to do is put the door catch in. So this actually serves in 2 functions. One is these wings catch those curled up areas in the door. It mounts like that, and they slide in. You can see where this door was really heavy on that side, wore it away. And it also has the catch for the tongue of the catch. So this has a sliding plate in the door, though it doesn't slide very much. And also, there is a certain amount of adjustment in these things, but you can't adjust it with a car on a lift. that the weight has to be on the wheels. It has to move around a little bit and settle down. So we're just going to get this close for now. So I got one screw started because the plate flops around otherwise. So I'll get that one in. As we can move the plate around a little bit. There. So we got that one started. These are replacement screws, so these are not posi lock. These are just regular Phillips head. They're also a bit long. You also noticed, I meant to show you this before I did this, but I had to turn off some of the head to make it a bit smaller in diameter. And I also drilled the holes a little deeper so these things wouldn't stick out beyond. And I'm sure back in 1955 you could go to a local store and get screws that would fit that, but not so much now. So you can do that on a drill press. I have a lathe, so I used it, but it's the kind of thing you can do with a drill press. It takes a little bit longer in the file, but you can make it work. See, there's a little bit of adjustment. There's about maybe 3/16 in any one direction or another, because the piece on the door didn't really seem to move. There it goes. Here's the A-pillar connection. That's that 3-bolt hinge on the bottom and the 4 on the top, and those ones do seem to have quite a bit of paint in them. So I'm going to go ahead and run the tap through those before we try to hang the door. So I'm putting the seals in the door. This is the upper seal, and it goes right here. So there's one hole right there around the corner, and there's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, there's an 8th one up there. So I'm getting ready to put these rubber seals in, door seals. This is an original factory repair manual, and there's one difference. This is calling for 7 clips, and the last one being around the corner here. I'm going to put this in the sunlight if you guys want to pause and take a look at that. But I've got 8. So there's the one around the corner, but there's a couple more right in here. So this is a later car, so I'm thinking that they added an extra screw in, and I just didn't pick it up on the repair manual. So these are the clips. I don't know how well you can see that. And you can either try to feed them along, which is a real pain, but you can just pop them in place, which is what I'm going to do. Also note the profile, how that lip goes off one side, so this goes to the outside of the door, so it's going to sit in the car in this orientation right here. So here's my 8 clips in place. I started the one at the top at the back. Started with this one here, and I've just been one at a time and setting the space in as I went, and then as I clip this in, I'll be able to adjust it as I go. So hopefully these things will just push in. And of course they won't. I'll get a pair of pliers. One thing I wanted to point out, it's easy to miss. Look at that clip in that drawing. You see how it's got kind of a ramp and a swing back in there? So these are one way. So that detail, the ramp and the swing back, goes to the outside edge of the clip. Yeah. So the easiest way to do this is with 2 people, but seeing we never do anything the easy way on this channel, I'm going to try it by myself. So we do have a board on the lift and a piece of cloth, or this is actually a towel, keep the door from getting mucked up, and that's got it pretty close. If I can get one screw started, I think we'll be in good shape. So let's see if I got my elbow in your field of view there. Screw in the hole, but the threads aren't catching yet. There they go. So from the factory, this had a 1/4 bolt, but a lock washer and a standard nut. But that would squeeze this on there. And I suppose to some way might act as a bit of a damper, but it seems to be a good way to have a squeaky door. So I'm going to use a nylock in that bolt. Get this camera tripod out of my way. Well, there it is in place. I can't adjust it because the car's on a lift, but it closes. I'll have to adjust this catch. But we're getting pretty close. I enjoyed that. Sorry that it's getting dark out, but it worked kind of late today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and we'll see you next time.